hop into Nearpod. I've got the code there. I'll drop the link in the chat in just a moment, but we will be starting in about 7 minutes.
Yeah. And for students, it just has this kind of base. Response, and it breaks down that data down below, so you get that by student as well. Yeah, that's great. Of course, yeah. Enjoy your next session. Yeah, bye.
All right. And I do have the Collaborate board open. That is in self-paced mode, just that one slide. If while you're waiting, you want to drop something on that Collaborate board, feel free, no pressure. But I am going to go ahead and mute here for just a couple of minutes as the other sessions are still wrapping up. Thank you, Jessica, for being brave and posting that first thing up there. So, but I'll hide the student names. Whoop. There we go. I'll hide the student names there. Again, if you're just joining us, we actually don't officially kick off the session for another 5 minutes, but I have dropped the link to the Nearpod in the chat if you want to go ahead and join that, and then feel free to add something to our collaborative board about what your perfect classroom would look like. And we'll get started, like I said, in about 5 minutes. Exam. I'm quietly laughing over here at myself at the warm classrooms. Can we just say temperature regulated classrooms that are actually comfortable? I think we can all get behind that. Those of us here at Carver know that we go back and forth between roasting to freezing our tails off, depending on the hour of the day. So that is definitely one that I can get behind there. Again, for those of you just jumping in, I know I keep repeating myself for those of you that have been here, but more and more people keep popping in. I have pinned in the chat the link to the Nearpod presentation that we will be working through today. Feel free to join us and add your thoughts on your perfect classroom to our collaborative board. This is open for comments and liking, so feel free to read through what your colleagues have posted, respond to them, give them some love on what they have posted already. There's some really, really good stuff on there. And I am not surprised to see all the mentions of technology. Warms my heart. Windows to the outside. We're going to be giving those up here in about a week here in instructional technology. I'm feeling that one.
Good morning, Jimmy. there you are. Good. Got you here. There he is. Good morning, Kevin. Doing well. Doing well.
Maybe the ability to measure how many classrooms have natural lighting and windows could be something that they could do as a data point on for our strategic plan. What do you all think? Do you think that would, going off of what we were talking about this morning? Yes, Madison. Oh, you're just, okay. It stinks that they have those buttons so close together. The raise your hand next to all the other, like, that one needs to be off by itself. All right.
I'm so much slower when you're waiting for it to hit an exact minute. I swear this past minute has been funny.
Hey, everybody.
All right, everyone. I have 11:15 on the clock here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started because we are always so ambitious, but we never know. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's great to see you all here. I have to admit, I was expecting a small number since I'm up against both ThrillShare and the new LMS. So thank you for taking some time to go over our very important thing about building classroom community. If you have not already, there is a link in the chat to the Nearpod. So please jump in on that conversation. And we're going to be doing several activities throughout the next 55 minutes together through that Nearpod. I love seeing the comments that you're putting on our collaborate board there. Again, I think Windows is definitely a key one. I'm loving that you're giving each other some likes on that. Life skills, yes, definitely life skills on there. Space is limited. That is a really good point. There are some tight areas. We are actually moving our own location. We're being moved to Riva Road here starting on Monday, and we feel you on the storage space right now. For those of you who have ever been in our office here at Carver, we had a huge closet, and we are losing that. So I hear you on the storage. There's been some tough decisions having to be made about some of our materials. So I totally love that. I will definitely peruse some of this later. Feel free. This will be available for you, of course, after our session this morning, but I am going to get us moving. So welcome again. We're going to be taking a look this morning about how we can use our tech tools to really work on that sense of community. And the reason for that, as we go through, of course, is the why that we talked about this morning, which is going to be, I want to see if I can get the presentation mode up, is going to be our why about, oh, you know what, because I'm not in, here we go. We'll just do it this way because then I got to switch tabs. Is where we are in those core beliefs with our new AACPS strategic plan. And obviously the big one here is that sense of belonging. We want our students to have that connection. We've been talking about for several years now, the importance of relationships. Also know how some of that time has gotten stripped away from us this year. So how can we utilize our tech tools to bring that back in the short amount of time that we have? And not just, of course, with our students, but also with our families, even between our staff. That sense of community and relationship is really important, as evidenced by our core belief. We, of course, also have our digital why, our Maryland Digital Learning Standards, number 7, that global communicator. I specifically pulled out A in that, indicator A, because it talks about being able to connect with learners from a variety of backgrounds and cultures. And yes, it says global, and so it might immediately make you think worldwide, across the country, across the state, but even within our own little ecosystems of our own classrooms, we have so many different backgrounds and so many different things that we can pull from to really get our students engaging with one another, to learn about all the different types of cultures and families and just different types of belief systems. So these are going to be our guiding principles throughout the session this morning. I alluded to this earlier, but we always know the big question is, when can I fit these things in? Time is of the essence. We were seeing that over and over again, not only in the Collaborate board, but even this morning when we were talking about the strategic plan, and just sometimes when are we supposed to be doing all of these different things? So as I went to pull resources and pull ideas together for this session today, I really focused on things that were quick, things that could be done maybe as a warm-up, maybe taking 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of a class, something that maybe could be stretched out and started on Monday, but then worked on throughout the whole week when students who had an opportunity for early finishers or something like that would be able to join in. We, of course, have that enrichment block in the elementary day that would work well, as well as our advisory periods in the secondary, at the secondary schools. So sometimes you just need, something to fill in. Hopefully this session will give you some ideas for that. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump in for things that actually require a little bit more time. I'm going to get those out of the way. So it'll be a little bit there of a hypocrite, but I thought it was important to still share these couple of individual options for you. I do want to point out, by the way, that up here in the top corner, it's not on my screen because I'm in teacher view, but for you yourselves, you'll see there's a little tab over here with a pencil and a pen. And that is the note-taking feature within Nearpod. Feel free to open that up, and you can, as you take notes, what will happen, you can have them at the end of the session be delivered to your OneDrive or your Google Drive or even your email, and it will actually have my slide at the top within your notes underneath. So feel free to take advantage of that if you would like. We, of course, also have our note catcher, so don't feel like you have to do things in 2 places, but some people enjoy that note-taking feature. All the links on these slides are active. You are able to click on them even though you are in as a student right now. So with that said, I do want to point out a couple of lessons or resources that you might use if you do have a longer block of time, or if for some reason there is something in your classroom that you feel like you really need to address. We know that as teachers, sometimes there is a situation that arises that we need to kind of nip in the bud, or we need to address as a class and have those conversations. Or maybe we need to then do some type of community building activity. It's just kind of a one-off to make sure that we're all jiving together as a class. So couple of options here that in Nearpod that these are already done for you. Obviously, they can all be tweaked and modified. The first link that here is the building class community. Now, I specifically linked to the one here that is going to bring up, and you know what, because, give me one second, let me share this tab instead. This one is for grades 3 through 5. Know that there is a K-2 version of this as well. It's very similar, but the questions are slightly different. But building and going through this school community activity, again, it tells you all of the materials that you have. So when we talk about no prep, low prep, this is a great resource for that. It, of course, sets our goal for the day. And then we're going to open up that discussion, because if we're going to talk about community and building classroom community, we want all of our students to feel as if their answers are welcome. And so being able to do something like this happens to be a drawlet, really allows for that all student response. So you don't have a couple of students always consistently sharing out and making the others feel as if they don't have the opportunity, or giving that quieter child in the classroom the opportunity to participate and voice their thoughts. One reason I actually really liked this one, and it's the same video that you'll see in the pre-K, or excuse me, the K-2 version, is this really cool video. It's only 2 minutes long. Actually, it's even less. I think it's 1:48 on how ants can create complex structures out of their own bodies. So first off, I'm not a big fan of creepy crawlies, but we do know that our elementary students really do love the creepy crawly stuff. So that will certainly engage them. But it was fascinating to me to see how these ants actually work together to build structures and get from one place to another. So it's definitely a unique view on how we can build those communities within our school, or just how communities can be built in general and working together. And it's a view that I don't think that we always take, is taking a look at that natural world. So I really liked this particular lesson, as well as the K2 one. And again, it just then continues, how do they work together to make themselves stronger? Just had some really good questions. For our secondary folks, we have another option. Give me, stop sharing my screen. I'm going to share my entire screen this time. So give me just a moment. Here we go. We'll do this one instead. I didn't want you to have to see any emails popping up in the corner of my screen at the moment. So that's why I did that this way. All right. The second option here that I have, this building school culture, is going to be geared more towards our secondary folks. And this one, again, it's a Nearpod, so everything is going to be done there for you. It doesn't use the ant video, unfortunately. But what I really liked is that this particular one, I'm just jumping ahead here. I really appreciated they had the slideshow functionality here with images that I thought were really reflective of many of the same activities and options that we have available to our students here in Anne Arundel County, as well as just showing what our school cultures can be a part of, whether it's groups, whether it's dance and theatrical things, even relating here to our CAT centers and working together as a team on robotics. So I really liked this one. Again, lots of options here. There's a collaborate. There's open-ended questions, there's the draw it, and then also, of course, a collaborate board for students. So, and this one really focuses on building that school culture. So not just the community within your classroom, but the culture of the building as a whole. And we know that all of our schools, you can walk into North County High School and has a very different feel than if walking into Southern High School. And that's not a bad thing, but every school has such a unique culture and community building. It's sometimes this is a great way to emphasize that and to really make the students aware of what a special community they are a part of. So I wanted to share those two options with you. We can also take a look at Discovery Ed. These particular options here that I have listed, creating classroom culture studio board, they are going to be geared towards our elementary folks, but it's a great opportunity for you to also see how you can build choice boards within Discovery. So certainly, even though there wasn't one already built for our high school folks, that isn't necessarily mean that you couldn't do one. This, again, I thought for early finishers would be a great opportunity to do, or even if you wanted to bring something like this up on your smartboard and do it whole group for if, hey, I'm having trouble with class expectations with my class right now, and I just need to do a quick 5-minute thing to kind of bring everybody back together to make sure that we're on the same page. So I love the fact that it has that choice board option. And for example, if I click then on that classroom expectations, we have a quick video here. All the videos are short. So again, perfect for that limited amount of time that we have. And it's going to go through what those questions are. We can watch the video, we can talk about it as we go through. In some cases, some of these options on the choice board are going to have, a follow-up type thing. I love that this is a write or draw a picture. It doesn't have to be digital. We're combining the digital with that traditional paper and pencil method. But again, this video is 4 minutes, perfect for maybe those small lessons that we need at that elementary level to nip something in the bud or just remind students of how important it is that we are doing something like including everybody. For our youngest learners, Discovery Ed does have the Sesame Learning Channel that is focused on coming together. We all love the Muppets. I mean, I know I'm saying this is for early learning early childhood learners, but I'm telling you, who doesn't love to see Big Bird in the morning? I mean, it's going to bring back some memories, hopefully for us, and a smile to our face. Here, again, are full-blown lessons that goes along with the video. These are PDFs. They are, again, focused on getting the students up and moving. So you have the technical, you have your digital aspect up on the smartboard, but then we can bring in one of these lesson plans. I actually really liked this Spanish word song one because it focuses on all the different languages that may be spoken in your classroom. And as our multilingual population is growing, this is a great way to kind of bridge those gaps, particularly amongst our pre-K set, and understanding that there are different ways and different languages and ways to say hello and greet people. And that's a wonderful thing because we are all part of the community and want to do that and celebrate how we communicate. So you can see this is a brief example. This is how all of the PDFs look like. It has the engaging piece. It has that explore piece. When you get to the second page, again, a thinking, discussion, all of that, again, to build that classroom culture and that classroom community. And there's also then something that you can work with the teacher and child, and also how you can then send that out to the community. So if you're doing a newsletter, sending something out to your families, this is what we did today. What can we do to work on that at home as well? So just something for our pre-K folks out there that we could also use. But again, hey, who's to say that even our high school folks might sometimes like to see a little bit of the Muppets out there. They're kids at heart, even though they like to say that they aren't otherwise. So those are some, again, if you have a little bit larger block of time, but I want to take a moment before we move into some team building type activities that really work into anything that we're doing. So here is just a short answer for you all to participate in. What types of team building activities are you currently doing with your students? It doesn't have to be digital, but just what are some ways that you are trying to build that feeling of team within your own classroom? Minute to win it. Gaining points for color houses, community circles, and movement breaks. That movement is so important. Second step. We know second step is our big curriculum piece. It's a program that I know we've been using for several years. So it's always good to see that mentioned. The community circles. I'm glad that you still have time for that. Table points, working together as a team. Ooh, tower building. I know my kids always like the speed stacks and doing those in PE at times. Okay. Name tents, community circles again. And a lot of these things, hopefully you can see as a jumping off point for community circle. Okay, different bookmarks that represented them. Oh, I love that. Okay. Lots of good answers here. Would you rathers? Can I just tell you, my 7-year-old has been doing would you rather essentially almost every night at the dinner table. Do you like this better or this better? Or would you rather do this or this? He comes up with some good ones. I don't know if he's getting it from school or what, but definitely there. Ooh, scary stories. Okay. Indy. Oh, it's like I planted you in the audience. We're going to talk about that. So let's think you guys have some great ideas here. Let's take a look at some other things that we can do. So team building, I think oftentimes when we talk about group work, I don't know about you, but as a student, I used to hate group work because I felt like I was always the one that had to kind of carry the group. So I think it's really important that building those teams, all students are aware of each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think it's also important for the teachers to know what the students perceive as their strengths and weaknesses as they are forming groups to work on team projects. And an option that we have for students to kind of share that with everyone is this team member card, ID card within Wixie. It's very simple. I think it appeals to our students at the youngest grades as well as our upper grades. Team member identity card, they can have their name in there, snap a picture of themselves, and then they're going to be able to share what their strengths and weaknesses are, as well as their unique features and what they love about group work. Again, starting that teamwork, that group project off on a positive note, rather than being, the student like me who's like, oh, here we go again. What do you enjoy about it? And helping the students focus on this. This is great. You could do it at beginning of the year if you wanted. I know we're kind of past that, but you could do it and you then use it as a way to help form groups throughout the year, or between or before each group project that you might or that you're going to be working on, have students reflect and create this, or even do it once a quarter and see if the things have changed at all as they have worked and built that school community or classroom community. So I really like this for that type of purpose. Minecraft, we know all of our students love Minecraft, and this is a self-awareness build challenge. And what I liked about this particular lesson is that you could pick and choose how you wanted it to go. There is a world here that you can download. I'm not doing it because if anyone has ever attended a Minecraft session with us, it takes a lot of bandwidth. And so being in Google Meet, I didn't want to risk slowing things down to actually go into the world. But you can download the world that is linked here, or you could use one of our build spaces that we have linked on Teacher Intro, where you can have all the students in one world doing this. But what the idea is that they are going to be building something that either represents one of their values, an emotion that they are really a self-portrait and kind of just show an emotion about how they feel, or again, going back to that idea of strengths and weaknesses, something to represent one of their biggest strengths. I love this. This is, again, we know Minecraft is one of our most engaging platforms that we have, that it's just a different creative thing. This would work well for an indoor recess type activity for our elementary folks. Again, something that they could work on over the course of several days in class for our early finishers, but would still very much serve a purpose for building that community. If you were to do it within one of our build worlds that has the 24 or the 40 spaces, you could then have everyone fly around and view everyone's particular builds and explain how they did their strengths. You could use the quill and pen as it states here, or excuse me, book and quill, or they could use the chalkboards. If they were to do the individual build world, which looks very cool, by the way, definitely engaging. I mean, when you have big giant pickaxes and pencils and things all over, it's definitely going to get your kids in there. Then you could do a gallery walk at the end of the week. Certainly something like that would work very well. So just, again, tapping into something that we know students really enjoy and engage is already going to put them in that positive mindset for building that classroom community and figuring out how they can work better together. And then the last thing that I have here is actually, someone had mentioned using Indy, but using any of the coding challenges, really using any of the robots in our schools to have our students work together. We know when we're dealing with the robots, whether it's Indy at the elementary schools, the bolts at middle schools, or the RVRs at high school, you know, we only have a limited number of them, and so they have to work together as a team. And so you could partner that with that team member ID card, but you don't have to. You certainly have the team roles within the groups of 3 or 4 students working to solve those challenges. And it really can have that content focus that we need, whether it's identifying and sequencing numbers, or doing, I know there's the wave option later on in the middle schools with the bolt, and having them code and working together as a team and working through those challenges together. It really does a fantastic job of building a lot of those soft skills that we so often don't have time to work on. So again, whether it's communication, being able to work out differences, it really does build with those using the robots, focuses on so many different content areas and standards that we have, whether it's our digital Maryland digital learning standards, whether it's our social emotional aspect, that community building, as well as the specific content standards. So don't let that go unnoticed or forgotten about, I should say, in your classrooms. Even just pulling out at the elementary school, the indies with the challenge cards makes a great activity to do. Again, indoor recess advisory periods, great time to work through some of the challenges within Spiro EDU to build that sense of community. Let's talk about it. Discussions. We know our students. Gabrielle, just real quick, they need to, so a couple of things. One, you have to completely do a complete reset. You have to blow it away. I know we can get those directions to you. You can also only have about 3 or 4 profiles that will load on the Chromebook before you're going to be running out of space. So it's really important that the same students are using the same Chromebook each and every time that they are within with you in the media center. So every week, Carrie gets number 1, Laura gets number 2, Megan gets number 3. That will help cut down on that. What's also going to help is actually Minecraft is coming out with a web-based version and be able to do that. So that is definitely going to help as well. So it should still install, I will tell you, as long as you've done the complete factory reset and blown it away completely. It should install at that point. If it's not, then you need to talk to your tech to make sure that the complete restart worked, the factory reset. But yes, we know that is an issue that is out there. Unfortunately, there's really nothing that we can do about it other than suggest, again, same person is on that Chromebook every time so that you're not having to not only reinstall, but less profiles on each of those Chromebooks. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I did try that, but I do have 20 classes. So
Yeah.
I can't keep it to just 3 or 4 kids per Chromebook. And I've done
Totally
a
understand.
factory reset on one of them and it didn't go through. So the fact that they're going to have a web-based version coming eventually, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I believe it's actually in beta for right now. And actually, Caitlin, I was going to make that same suggestion. Your older students could bring their Chromebook from the classroom with them. If just talk to the classroom teacher, and that might help as well. Good suggestions there. Thank you. All right, classroom discussions. We certainly know all students. A lot of students, we like to talk. This is something that's been around for a while. Some people do Wise Wednesdays, and they'll throw a question up on a dry erase board, and the students, as they come in, they respond to it, or Monday musings or things like that. So what we actually did this, and we put this document together back during COVID. I feel like I've been saying that a lot today, even though it's been 4 years ago, for folks to use to get to know their classes in that virtual environment. But the questions here are still really, really good. So this is actually linked on Teacher Intro. Excuse me. This is linked on Digital Takeout under the Building Classroom Community tab. I'll take you there in a little while. But this is just a list of questions because let's face it, sometimes that's the hardest thing is to think about what questions can I ask my students. So this is part 1. It's just having these questions available that you can pull from. But how can we then move this into some digital tools and some things that we can have our students relate? And so when we think about it, obviously the Nearpod Collaborate board, I actually had you do that community building activity before we even got started here today. I had that up there with it wasn't one of the questions on that list, but what are your 3 things for a perfect classroom? That type of thing does build classroom community. And you could share this with a self-paced link. It could be available all week long. So as students have the opportunity to answer, they can jump right in, just have the code posted maybe on your board somewhere. You could, of course, absolutely post that within the LMS, and students can get into it whenever they have a free moment. It could be a warm-up one day, however works best within the time frame that you have. What I really like about that Collaborate board option is that you can have the students like each other's comments. They can comment back on one another. It can be anonymous to them. You always see who has responded and how. So there is still that accountability, which I know is a big deal, particularly when we are dealing with some of our middle schoolers out there. And you even have the ability within that Nearpod Collaborate board to set the settings so that you can approve the posts before they go out if you feel as if you need to do that for your particular group of students. So I really like that you have that flexibility there, and it's a very simple thing. You just type the question across and you're good to go. Nearpod also has a selection of pre-created boards that I thought I would pop in, and again, I have that link shared here with you. Here we go. Give it a second to load. They had some really kind of cool questions. What doesn't belong in, like all about our favorite animals, about fictional characters. If you could fly. I mean, hey, why not? I think that's a really question a lot of kids could get in between. These are simply set up as 2 truths and a lie, share your mood. I actually, again, here we have our field trip option. Where would your kids want to go if they could go anywhere in the world? And this one says K2, but I don't think there's absolutely any reason why that wouldn't work for secondary as well. In this case, they're sharing pictures or words that they would want to go to. They even already have it populated with a couple of examples if you needed to do that. So if you're going to plan a field trip, where would you go? So again, just so those open-ended, getting to know what their likes might be, what their interests are, whether or not they want to go see the space shuttle, or they want to travel to Niagara Falls, or are they more a, hey, I just want to go ride roller coasters kind of person. So some interesting things there, and definitely some great opportunities for some thoughts that were not included on that initial list that I have linked there. So feel free to check those out. And again, no prep. You gotta love no prep, quick and easy. For Wixie, we're actually going to demo this. I'm not talking this whole time. I promise you I'm going to have you guys do this. So we are going to explore within Wixie. You can either do something whole group on the smartboard as students are coming in at the beginning of class, or you can do it as a team project. And what we are going to do is we are going to do this as a team project. Now, what I don't want you to do, and this is going to sound weird, is not select Wixie from your class link. And that is because I didn't know who was coming to the session, so I couldn't set up the teams ahead of time. So what should have pushed out on your screen right now is just wixie.com. What I need you to do is we're going to click up here on this sign in button. And ooh, we've got 44 of you in here. I'm not going to have enough, so we'll see who gets in there first. When you go to sign in, this is going to be the username. It's going to be Carver. And then after that, we're going to have the numbers 1 through, I think we have up to 30, if I recall correctly. It might even be 35. Pick a random number. I'm sorry. We're just going to have to kind of take our chances here. If you try one number and you don't get in, we'll try another one. The password, super secure. Wixie, all lowercase. And when you get in there, I am going to switch over into Wixie myself. So give me just a moment. And then we'll get in from there. And if you don't get in, don't worry. I will share my screen so that you can kind of see what's happening.
One, but no question related to that within our Q&A.
So let me hop over here.
In Canvas Read.
Okay. And Stacey, Nearpod have images, and they do not. They will have to look for them and upload them. All right. So when you come into that Wixie account, they may or may not all be Disney characters with a few Orioles thrown in there, or athletes thrown in. When you come in to Wixie, you have over on the left-hand side your menu, and one of those options says Team Projects. So if you select in that Team Projects folder, okay, mine's going to look a little different because I'm here as the teacher. You should see sitting there the class graph as well as eCoach Day magical things. These are just 2 options that I happen to find that I thought would work really well. There are a ton of templates within Wixie for community building, but I really wanted to focus on these 2. One, because I like the class graph as being something on the smartboard where the students can come over and drag their slides or drag their squares. But I know one question we get a lot, and why I focused on this one with the eCoach Day magical things, is we get a lot of questions about video responses and things like Flip, which isn't approved here in the district. So this is a great alternative to that. So if you want to jump into here, and all this does, and I'm going to mute here in just a moment so that you have the opportunity to actually complete this assignment and see what it looks like. We have here my prompt in the middle that you can respond to, that you can listen to. And then notice we have restricted all of the tools available to our students. To respond, they have to record with a video. So you're going to listen to my prompt, and then you can respond with a video. We can go ahead, and in fact, I am going to duplicate this page several times. And you should be seeing that happen live on your screen. I'll do one more just for good measure. Okay, so pick a square and you will record your video and then drop it into one of here, and you'll be able to see your colleagues drop their responses in there as well. Are there any questions on that? All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute, and I'm going to give you, I keep getting kicked out because someone else uses the same one. Again, Maggie, I don't have enough. This class actually only has 30. I wasn't expecting to have 44 folks in here. This is actually a very old training class from when Debbie and I used to do Wixie face-to-face, but I wanted everyone to have the opportunities. But you'll be able to view on my screen. So if you can't get in there, go ahead and just watch what's happening. Gabrielle, if you watch the video that's in the center, it will tell you the prompt. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute and I forgot I was on mute. If some of you want to drop the number that you use to sign in into the chat, and then maybe someone else can hop in. They can see it. And after you've done yours, go ahead and log out, and then someone else can pop in and get that opportunity. We can tag team. We can make this work. 14 is free. Thank you, Jess. Okay. Just know, again, this is usually a lot faster process, but because we're doing this via Google Meet, there is going to be a little bit of a lag in seeing those videos appear. Yep. Sure thing, Nicole. It's Carver with a capital C, then the number after it, and then the password is going to be Wixie, all in lowercase. I should put a hashtag after the number, but my apologies on that one. So it's Carver, a number, and then the password is Wixie. Now, again, we're doing this with videos. I know not all students are comfortable being on video, so they could certainly, you could modify this so that they could have the text option and they could write their response here. You could also, of course, give them the option to do images or drawings, particularly for our younger students. But I do like the ability to have the video because it does put a face to a name, particularly if you're doing this across class periods or something along those lines. The question is probably going to come up, how do you set up a team activity in Wixie? It is actually quite simple. This is doing team activities is something that only teachers have the ability to set up. I want to make that clear. Students cannot decide on their own that they are going to open a blank Wixie and invite their best friend to join them. All right, so we do have that safety feature, if you will, security feature turned on. So if you as a teacher want to set up a team activity within Wixie, when you open the project, you have this team icon up here at the top. When you do that, you will select the class from your options that you have available to you. And then all of the students, in this case, I'm actually in my training class here, all of your team members are going to be down the side, and you can just toggle on and off whether or not you want Jack Sparrow to be a part of this particular activity. If you are going to have multiple groups doing the same activity, you will need to have a copy of the template for each group. So if you have 4 groups, you need to have 4 versions of that template and go in and set the teams for each individual one. You as the teacher will always be a member of the team. Okay. In this case, I just turned them all on so that everyone could see that. Okay. Questions about teams in Wixie? Okay. Again, this one was designed to be, again, could be a morning work, throughout the week, early finishers, but something like the graph that I had here that could answer a question. And I'll jump back out of here so you can see this. This particular activity is very simple, would work really well whole group. So again, even for our youngest learners, they would be able to do this. As your older students are coming in and getting settled during the class change, they can come up and they can drag across the square to answer whatever question that you had for the day. And then you could have that class discussion about their opinions and kind of, is there something that they were there. All right, I thought that Wixie was shared, but I don't see after. Carolyn, don't worry about it. We'll get it set up if there's problems. Like we can certainly walk you through that before. Okay, but again, there's a whole folder of activities for building classroom community, for shared, actually collaborative activities. If you're in Wixie, and if you want to jump out and join in as yourself now, you certainly may if you want to see where I'm going. But under design templates in Wixie, there is a whole folder here called Collaborate. And you will see that all of the ones that I use there, that video response is there, as well as a couple of different versions of that class graph. So again, no prep, ready to roll, and you can certainly modify these for your particular class and for your students. All right, I'm going to move us on from that. Focusing on gratitude is always a good option as well. If we focus on what we're grateful for, that's going to build that classroom community and telling the people in our classes how much we are grateful for them. There were two options for Wixie, but then also Adobe Express. For Wixie, I like the high five, and the reason I like this one, it's literally just a handprint, y'all. That's all it is. The students can use their drawing tools, they can use their images, and they can explain why they are grateful for someone. And then what I love about this is, again, making that connection between digital and paper and pencil. You as a teacher are going to be able to see all of these. The student can come tell you, hey, I did a high five for someone today. You have the ability to print that, give it to the student. They can cut it out, however you want to do it. Have a class book of these that is shared with the students. But you could have that whole display in your classroom of these high fives that they have given one another, completed in that digital format. So it's super simple. It's quick. The students can do it on their own when they have that free moment. The gratitude jar, or excuse me, gratitude board is very similar to what we just did with the videos, where again could be shared as the group class, and everyone would give something and post a post-it note, very Jamboard-ish for those of you that really like Jamboard, that they can share that they are thankful for. And you could have a theme. It could be anything. It could be thankful for something within the classroom. It could be something more global than that if you wished. Adobe Express is also a great place where they can go and create a thank you card, or you yourself can create a thank you card or note to share with your students or with your parents. I don't have it linked here for a very specific reason, because it's going to be on the next page. But don't forget about Adobe Express. Lots of options. It is a rabbit hole to go through and see all of the thank you templates that are within Adobe Express. But that kind of moves on to my next part here when we're talking about Adobe, and that is this ability to have shared goals and shared goals within a community. We can be grateful, sharing our thankfulness, but then having a goal that we are working towards in a community. It could be a month goal, it could be a weekly goal, it could be a day goal. But even taking something on Monday and taking a couple of minutes at the beginning of class and say, what is our goal this week? It could be content specific, or it could be something as simple as, we really need to work together to make sure everyone is putting their names on their papers. We know how that can often be a challenge. And then as you complete those goals together, you can share this with the students via the LMS, or you could actually print it off and post it in the physical classroom. You can also even share it with your parents. I do have a Wixie one linked here. This would be an individual, but I'm going to jump into this Adobe Express link that is here. Tons of templates. This is a shared library. What I tried to do for you here, when you click on that link, it's going to bring you into Adobe, and you're going to see all of the templates that I have for both this and the next slide within Adobe. It's going to look like nothing is here. Scroll down to the bottom. All of the templates are at the bottom of the screen. But I really liked some of the templates. Again, very simple, keeping it basic. If you wanted to work on a single goal, something like this, here's our goal. This is why it's important that we're working on this together as a class. What are some steps to take that can make sure that we are working towards this goal together? Yes, it could be done individually, but again, that idea of, hey, this is a class is something that we really need to work on. So this is one option. If you had to have multiple goals, this says for today's class, it could be your overarching, but you could also do it for the week or the month. Here are 4 things that we're going to work on. You could have 2 be more social type goals, and you could have 2 being more content specific if you wanted. And this would be as simple as pulling it up on your board in the classroom and having the students share out with you what they want to see on this. So again, just a good thought. If you had different goals for the week, what the focus is, I really like that it had this focus section. That could be a goal, particularly for our older students who might get tired of hearing, all of these goals. What is our focus for this particular week? This one's a little bit different. It's for some reason in this template form, it doesn't show the animation, but this one was actually called Monday Intentions. And it has 3 spots where they can type and it pops up at the top and it just kind of does that graphic over and over. So not one that would be good for printing, but certainly one that would be good to share with students via that LMS. And being able to go back and having that posted somewhere, again, digitally or in the physical classroom, it just serves as that reminder. You can start at the beginning of every class with reminding students what it is that you're working on towards that week. Now, when we talk about those shared goals, again, not just communicating them within our own building or within our classroom itself, but also sharing with our families, and connecting with our families is obviously going to be part of our community building as well. And so having them know about those goals or about other things going on is going to really connect and build that stronger classroom community. With Adobe Express, really take advantage of their ability to translate their documents. So again, you could complete this goal sheet, and I'm going to jump out here and go to my home here for a moment. I actually started to do this the other day, and then I actually didn't type it all in, but we have here, if you have not seen this functionality, it is very, very powerful. And yes, Jessica Krasnick, excited for the Adobe Express quick actions. It's always good. Adobe's always awesome. You can type anything that you want within these squares. Okay, come on. Where's my text? Let me grab and add a text box. Here we go. So maybe it is to be better about saying hello to my classmates. I know that's really big. Give me a moment. I'll resize that. But you can take anything within Adobe, and it will take this and translate it into all sorts of languages. Now, we know that Thrillshare will translate what is sent, but if you were to send out some kind of flyer or a PDF, that will not translate. So you have the ability here to come in and select translate, and you have all of these different languages that you can choose from. So it's not just our basic, Spanish and French or Mandarin. We got Portuguese, we got Romanian, Serbian, some that I honestly am not even quite sure of. We even have Welsh. So any of these can be translated. We'll go in Hungarian, and you hit translate, and it will create a second document for you. Okay, here's page 2 now. And now it's going to be translated into that other language. So now I can download these PDFs and I can send them out to my families via Thrillshare so they can see what those goals are. Okay. Or if it's not just a goal, if it's a flyer for a staff event, or excuse me, a school event, I can go ahead and do that translation there. I can also work with my class. I know my 6th grader, usually every Monday, sometimes on Fridays, I get an email from his teachers saying, this is what's happening on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you'll see in that folder that I sent out, I do have, let me jump back here. I know I have it in the other place, but I can get it here quicker. I have some different templates. There are tons of options here that you can use with the community. Again, that focus one here that I showed, this was a basic student planner that you could put in. This is for the week of, this is the subject, quizzes that are coming up, homework that parents need to be aware of, what the goals are for the week, some notes. Even something as simple as a calendar for your particular classroom, once a month type of thing, this would also translate. And what a nice, easy, clear way to kind of outline everything that's going on, depending on what your administration's requirements and expectations are for the use of Thrillshare or communicating with parents. Being able to take this and utilize that translation feature is great. There are lots of newsletter options here as well. I didn't want to focus on that, but try to think of some other ways that you could use Adobe and connect with those families. I also want to point out, and this is something that you may not have thought of, but Google Meet will translate closed captions live into other languages. And you're like, but Carrie, we don't really do anything virtually with our parents anymore. Who says it has to be virtual? If you, and I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to swap to this one just so that you can see this. We're going to get that infinity mirror. So forgive me for that. There's no way that I can get around that. But if you are in a Google Meet, if you are doing a face-to-face presentation for parents, whether it's a PTA meeting or a small group or whatever, and you aren't able to get a translator, you could have Google Meet up. You don't even have to have your video camera going. And if you come into closed captions, you can turn them on, which just in general is a great thing. But then you can also see where it popped up there briefly about the live language. If I go into my settings down here and go to captions, you select the language of the meeting. In this case, I'm obviously speaking English. And then when I click this toggle on for translated captions, I can then translate it into any other language. So if you have just a specific family in mind that you're meeting with and couldn't get a translator, you could do something like this. If it's a school-wide event and you happen to know that your population is very heavily Spanish, you could certainly turn this on for them as well. You can even go back and forth between the different translations. Does it still, mean that your teachers that your parents or families have to be literate in their home language? Absolutely. But this is a great way to reach them and make them feel more included and help build that classroom community. And it's with a tool that we're all very familiar with. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and stop sharing the infinity screen because I know that can be a little option on that. Can hosts change the language? Yes, only the hosts can change the language. However, if for the whole group. However, if someone is watching individually or independently, so you are doing a virtual event and the families at home want to turn on closed captioning themselves, they as a user also have the ability to change the closed captioning just for them. So the host can do it for the entire meeting and everyone that's watching, but individual users can change it for them individually. Does that make sense, Maggie?
For that, but up to a certain amount of hours.
Hopefully I answered that.
Sure.
All right. So with that, just a couple of ways that you can build that community within the families. And yes, they follow the same steps. Yes. Okay. So just real quickly to wrap things up here in our last 5 minutes, of all of the ideas that we discussed so far here today, is there something in particular that really jumped out at you that you would think would work particularly well for your staff and your teachers? And you should be able to select multiple. I believe I turned that on.
Okay.
Okay, getting those answers in.
Creator Plus.
Okay.
Wow, we got pretty equally across the board there. Yeah, the lesson and choice boards, the classroom discussions. I think the classroom discussions is probably the simplest and the easiest. It really works well regardless of the amount of time that you have there. The sharing with families. How many of you knew about the closed captioning translation? Is that a new one? New one for all of you? I can see that being important at the Virtual Academy because you guys do so much virtually with parents. Yep.